Daniel, thanks for taking the time to talk. I'm excited to hear from the co-founder of Readwise and Reader about this tool, which I really love. We could start with just why this new tool, Pocket and Instapaper and various other read it later tools have been out there. This, I think, is much better, but tell us why you think there's a need and how this improves upon those
Sure.
existing
I'll
services.
actually go to my folder here where I have my blog post. Here it is, where I go through that. So yeah, I think the most basic way to think of this new application that for the time being we're calling Reader, it's like Instapaper or Pocket. If you've ever used one of those apps, they're typically referred to as read it later apps, but it's built for the next generation. So Instapaper and Pocket both emerged right after the smartphone, and they had like a nice pace of development until around 2015. And since then, they've mostly been in maintenance mode. So I think there's an opportunity to come in and basically reimagine what those are for the modern era. So the first big difference between our software and Instapaper Pocket is it not only saves web articles for reading later. That's kind of the core function of Instapaper or Pocket. If you see an article online that you want to read, but you just don't have time right then, you would save it to Instapaper Pocket. Reader enables you to bring all your content into one place. So you get those web articles, you can get email newsletters, which I've really stormed onto the scene in the past few years, your RSS feeds, Twitter threads, Twitter lists, PDFs, EPUBs. So you can bring everything into one place. We even support highlighting the open web using our browser extension and YouTube videos. The next thing that really differentiates Reader from these old read it later apps is it's built for power users. And one of the key features that a power user wants is annotating. Highlighting is very powerful. Taking notes is very powerful in Reader. And there's so much you can do with this annotation data for your various workflows, be it for work or for learning a skill or solving a problem in your life. You can even do everything with keyboard shortcuts, which is also kind of power user oriented. You can listen to articles on your phone using text to speech. We have a very insane feature that embeds GPT-3 called Ghostreader and much more.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick aside of that. I love that. I made some flashcards for a couple of things I was reading, and it was really useful to have kind of the question and the answer, which I hadn't ever thought of as a use case that I would need. But I thought, actually, okay, that's actually quite useful if I'm learning something. So yeah, that's
so here it's generated a question. What is Reader intended for? Reader is intended for power users with productivity oriented innovations, blah, blah, blah. The next thing is Pocket and Instapaper are pretty rigid. I think like the most flexibility they have is you can create folders in Instapaper or tags, but Reader has a much more powerful organizational primitive. So you can set it up so you can get both your work and your personal content in one place and have them peacefully coexist where you're comfortable using it during the day, but also reading it at night. The next thing, which it now seems like table stakes, but it's actually very hard from a technical perspective, is it's local first. So I could go offline right now, continue to use this. When I come in line, all my changes sync. And it's also cross-platform, meaning all your data from web and mobile is synced across every client kind of seamlessly. And then finally, like I mentioned at the very beginning, Instapaper and Pocket have really been in maintenance mode since 2015. If you shoot them an email, like they will have a customer support person occasionally respond to like help you work out a problem. But in terms of like adding new functionality, adding new features, that just doesn't happen anymore.
Give us a sense of how you use it. So on a day-to-day basis, like you kind of wake up, you're reading news, you save something for later, and then you return to it at the end of the day to kind of read top articles and articles that you've subscribed to in various newsletters. Is that kind of your typical use case? Or?
So I use it throughout the day. In the morning, the way I typically use it. So I'm just using the table of contents here. I'm going to go to this feature called Daily Digest. Once you've got your Reader account set up, you'll have stuff that's pushed to you automatically. These would be things like RSS feeds and email newsletters and Twitter digests, where you're not manually curating them for yourself, but they're being pushed to you. And then you have things that you have saved for yourself. So you've got a combination in your account. Once you've got it set up, you can use this feature called Daily Digest. And this is how I use it in the morning. So every morning it generates 25 articles. 20 of those are from my feed. So it's going and using an algorithm to pick the 20 things in my feed. I get like 100 to 200 items per day. So it's trying to like pick the best 20. So I can just go through those and see if anything's interesting, like look at the headlines, feel like I've got a sense of like what's going on in the world. And then the last 5 in the daily digest are things that I've saved for myself over the past year or so. And maybe if I have time where it's like really salient, I'll read it right then. Maybe I'll be like, I saved that 9 months ago, but this is out of date or now it no longer speaks to me. I'll archive it. Or I'll be like, I need to read this, but I just don't have time right now. And I'll like pin it using a feature we call short list to go and read it. So that's how I use it in the morning. Throughout the day, when I'm at work, what I'm doing right now, we just launched this into public last week and we've got, without exaggeration, 1,000 emails, which I'm kind of responding to. So I've made this little shelf that I call reference shelf, which has all these different things that I've written, including an FAQ that comes with the document. So I'm like referencing these and someone's like asking me, like what's the relationship between Reader and Readwise? I'll just come in here. This is kind of like referencing a document. I'll Control C and I'll copy this and I'll go and paste it in the email. So that's how I'm using it through the day right now. Back when things were a little more quiet, I would actually try and read during the day, but I haven't had time to do that over the past few months. And then at night, then I'm more shifting into kind of like more chilled, relaxed. I'm reading my book. I typically will try and read something off my short list. I keep my books here. Right now I'm reading Heat 2. I just enlarge this.
And why just while you're on the point about books and PDFs, why read those? Because a lot of people are familiar with other readers like Kindle for books, for example. Why read those books in Reader?
It's just nice having everything all in one place. There's no real point in kind of like fragmenting your workflow. If you're reading a nonfiction book, there's a very compelling argument to read in Reader over something like Kindle, just because it's built for nonfiction, whereas Kindle is really built for genre fiction. It's built for people who read romance and thrillers and science fiction and things like that. So to access our annotation, to access Ghostreader, to have your highlights sync into your note-taking app, it's very compelling to read here versus in one of those other reading platforms.
And for those who are reading stuff on the web clipper pretty much puts it immediately into Reader, right? Just as it would for Instapaper or any other tool.
Yep. And, over the years through our original application, Readwise, we have integrations with Instapaper, Pocket. So we can grab those for you. And when we started this, we have a benchmark of the top 200 articles saved to these by our users. And we use that benchmark to grade our parsing quality. Parsing is the process of taking like an article on the internet. And the internet is so flexible that people can use HTML and CSS and JavaScript in various different ways, and turning it into this very like clean, distraction-free reading experience. So that's what parsing does. And at this point, we are well above the benchmark in terms of Instapaper or Pocket. Candidly, we'll never be able to parse 100% of the internet 100% accurately all the time, but we at least exceed their levels, and we have things you can do in the event you run into a parsing error.
Just 2 more questions. One is about guilt that people feel, right? I've accumulated so much in my Instapaper queue. You and I have talked about this in the past, and I know many others at end of year, whenever it is, when you look at all the stuff you've accumulated and people feel guilty, they feel like they can never catch up. What's your guidance to people on that in terms of, managing that overload of stuff that you want to read every day and you're getting overwhelmed with, and you're saving it for later, but that later never seems to be a time where you can catch up with everything. How do you think about that, or kind of what's your guidance on that for people who are feeling that?
Yeah, I mean, content overload is definitely a psychological problem of the abundance era. We try and help people reframe it, because I think trying to read all 778 articles is just futile. It'll never happen. So we have a couple different workflows users can use. I know workflow is kind of a weird word, but it's just, we have ways of framing the reading experience, and hopefully one of these fits your particular psychology. I'm using our kind of default workflow, which is called shortlist. So everything you save goes into later, and it reframes that backlog into not like a to-do list where I feel guilty that I haven't read everything, but more just like this amazing anti-library, right? Like going into your home and you just have these shelves filled with books, and you'll just never run out of interesting stuff to read. And then when you see something that's super salient or like the right piece at the right time, you promote it to shortlist. So I've got this short list of things. My short list, the way I use it, is typically a combination of like very long form, like a book that I'm currently reading, some various articles for work that my present self hopes that my future self will read, and then some reference documents. So that's one option. We also have a workflow called Triage. This is really good for someone who likes getting things done. The way this works is everything you save goes into an inbox and you periodically get it down to inbox zero. And that inbox zero provides kind of the relief from the guilt because now you see this like Zen like inbox zero. And when you're ready to kind of wade in, then you go into later and you find something to read.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, it's helpful having that frame, I think. And I like the analogy to the bookshelves at a home. You know, people aren't going to read every single book that they have necessarily if they have a huge collection. But there's a sort of comfort knowing they can refer to those books when and if they want to, and for however long they want to. And it's in that context, we don't necessarily feel guilty about it. Even if we accumulate new books, we know that they're there for us and they don't stress us out. Although I think the pace of accumulation is just much faster online with all the things that we subscribe
Yeah,
to.
that has definitely increased at a rate faster than our ability to process. Hopefully this software now equips readers with the ability to process faster than they could before and put that back into a little bit more of equilibrium.
Some tools are offering summaries for people of long material, sort of AI generated kind of summaries. You have these little summaries on the side. Do you find that they're sufficient to kind of give people a sense of what's most urgent or relevant to them?
Yeah, so these are just being pulled out of the metadata, so they're prepared by the author themselves. But we do have our GPT-3 thing, so I can go and summarize this document right here. I have no idea what this is about. I think it's about like a lot of people are afraid to talk to strangers. So you can see Ghostreader's working right now.
Mhm.
So the study found that talking to strangers intervention was surprisingly effective in reducing people's fear of socializing with new people.
And is that
So
now
anyway,
part of your account? Like, is that now saved, or do you have to manually save
yep,
it if you want to keep it?
that's saved into the document note. We're going
Okay.
to evolve. This is so new that it's kind of confusing. Like, is GPT like its own thing? Is it an extension of you? We're
Hmm.
still figuring out like what's the right mental model here. But yeah, this is in your notebook. And so a lot of our users will just sit here and they'll just hit Shift G or they'll come in here and they'll invoke. It's not here, but you can still hit it. Shift G and they'll just summarize the document here.
Hmm.
Another crazy thing you can do with this is you can literally talk to a document. You can ask it questions, and it will give you answers. I don't need to show that right now, but
That's interesting.
it's another way to kind of get something out of the article without having to spend. This thing is 57 minutes long.
Right.
I could still get a lot out of it without necessarily spending an hour reading it all.
That's great. There's a ton in here, which I'm trying to summarize in my own post. What are some things that are ahead? You've built so much in here already. I know over the past year and a half. And what are two or three kind of things next for 2023 that people might look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, we're candidly figuring that out, but we've really spent the past year and a half uh, building this all-in-one tool. That's really the value proposition that we tried to start with was getting everything into one place, which solved this pain of just fragmented reading. Like I read in my articles in my web browser, I read newsletters in my email client, I read books in Kindle, I read PDFs in Adobe Acrobat or just on a folder and I never read them at all. So there's definitely like a pain there that needed to be solved. And it's kind of the foundation for what we could do next. So that's what we've spent doing. But for a lot of these, they're really just kind of D1s. PDFs would be the canonical example. PDFs are so flexible in terms of how they can be used. Like we have a contingent of users who comes from academia and the scholarly world who wants to use PDF in more of a research context. But then we have people who are more in like white collar uh, jobs to use PDFs in a different context, for things like pitch decks and research or like industry research and things like that. So I think we'll probably spend the next few months not so much expanding the boundaries of Reader, but just going deeper on all of these use cases. And then when you open software like this up to a huge public, like people just push the software to its boundaries and find all these things that even though we had thousands of people in our private beta, we just never discovered. So we need to go and fix those.
One of the features I think is brand new and I found really surprisingly cool and useful is the YouTube integration, where you can actually watch and highlight from the transcript of the video while you're watching it. So if you're learning something, you can highlight that. Um, what are a couple of ways you think people can take advantage of that? And maybe you can, if you have one handy, you can show that quickly. What are a couple of ways that you think people can best take advantage of that?
Yeah, this is probably one of our most beloved features, even after only being out there for less than a month. Uh, YouTube is just such it has evolved into such a powerful learning platform. Particularly, I mean, you can learn anything on it, right? Like you could watch a college lecture and get a lot out of it and watch it at your pace. I can be using the keyboard to watch at my pace and then take a note. So very good for self-learning because now you're not kind of moving at someone else's pace, but you're moving at your own. And you can take highlights from the video. But another place where YouTube is just unbeatable by like a factor of 100 is what's known as like practical knowledge. And like imagine you're trying to learn how to build a cabinet, right? And you're trying to learn from a book. Even if that book has like figures and diagrams, you're just never going to be able to absorb that kind of practical knowledge the same way you could as if you watch like a video. Um, so I mean, it's very flexible. You can even use this for podcasts. Most podcasts are on YouTube. At least anyone who's trying to achieve distribution of their podcast, you can also use it for here. So this is a super flexible feature, and people love it. It also works on mobile, so you can watch the video on the top half of your phone is the video, the bottom half is the transcript. And what's happening is it will highlight what's being spoken here. I can use keyboard shortcuts to speed it up, also to navigate, and keyboard shortcuts to pause it. And of course, I can highlight it. And then those highlights will have timestamps.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to highlight to point out is that what I find useful is being able to jump back to the key points in coordination with the time code, and then also being able to subscribe in the feed. So pick a couple channels that I tend to watch and subscribe in the feed, so that I don't have to go out to YouTube necessarily. I can do that when I'm doing kind of reading. I can also integrate, watching a couple of the videos right within that, and then have the highlights stored in the same place where my reading highlights are stored. To me, is a nice way to sort of start to unify where things are for organizational efficiency.
Yeah. For people like you and me, this is kind of like a novelty. For students or people who are self-learning, like learning to code on your own, like they will just spend hours using this feature, watching like a 3-hour demo of like how to use React Native or whatever. And it's just an incredible feature for them.
Thanks for taking the time to show this. I think it's great. I'm excited to have a dedicated place to continue reading. Just in terms of the landscape of different tools, there are newsletter readers. There was Google Reader. It seems like this could be a kind of unified tool for all those different things that people are reading. They're reading in their inbox. They're reading in various different places. They're reading in the Kindle. Do you anticipate that people sort of end up anchoring on this particular app or other kind of unified apps rather than distributing across a number of different services?
It's definitely our hope. Context switching is very costly. So wherever you can reduce that, I don't think we've solved the problem of how. So read it later apps like Instapaper and Pocket, according to estimates that we found, and we researched this pretty heavily, they probably have had 60 to 80 million people sign up over their 12 or 13-year lifespan thus far. But they have fewer than 1 million active users at this point, which I don't know if you know anything about, software retention rates, but that's just abysmal. So there's clearly a huge problem there where people are just picking up the benefits of the software and learning how to use it. And that's not something we've solved. So right now, this is still kind of our Tesla Roadster going after the ultra high expectation customer. We hope to democratize this over time and find a way to bring it down to less people or less very online people, make it more ordinary. That's certainly what we hope. But I'd be lying if I said we solved it at this point.
Well, thanks for building it. I'm looking forward to continuing to experiment with it and to see how it grows, and look forward to seeing you continue to add features. As you mentioned, those other tools have flatlined to some extent. So I'm excited to see how you continue to build it and to see what the readership and other people who try this out end up doing with it. So So thanks very much, Daniel. Thanks for taking the
Yeah.
time to talk.